Hello, Liam from Unique Cars and Parts, and I'm with Brad from the
National Motor Racing Museum at Bathurst.
You must be getting sick of me asking you to do that. But I'm standing in front of Brad's own car. I saw you driving down the road in this morning, actually, before we got to the museum, and I thought, it's the second time I've seen that car at the museum, so I reckon somebody who works here owns it, and it's a pretty special car. You've decided not to own a Holden or a Ford. You've gone for Mercedes, but not just any Mercedes, a 64. This is when they really bolted them together properly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice car, but I do own a couple of Holdens as well. But yeah, this is the car I sort of drive every day at the moment, and yeah.
Powered by a six-cylinder 220.
Yeah, so it's a 220 SE, so it's a 2.2 straight six, but it's mechanically fuel injected.
Mechanically fuel injected. Is it hard to maintain?
Look, it's not. It's actually, you know, there's some aspects of it that it's better than a carby. If all the linkages are all in the correct position and the pump and everything are working properly, then it just goes all the time. Having said that, if anything goes wrong, it's pretty kind of specialist equipment now, you know, 50 odd years down the track. It's not easy to find somebody that knows what they're doing, but you know, you don't have to own one for long before you work out who to send it to if you do have an issue.
And have you got somebody local in Bathurst that's able to fix it for you?
Look, not at the moment. We've only been up in Bathurst about 12 months. I was involved in the Mercedes Club down in Melbourne and had some good contacts there, but you know, I can track people down if we need to.
I was in the Mercedes Club myself because I once owned a 71 350 SL. That's the first of the V8 SLs. And I think that had mechanical fuel injection. I'm not sure now.
No, that one, being in a 107, would have had D-Jet Bosch in electronic injection.
Correct. That was a test and you passed, right? Well done. So tell me a little bit more about the car. You've owned it for only 12 months, you said?
No. We've owned the car since 2004. So, yeah, we've had it quite a while now, but only been up here for 12 months. So we bought the car in rural Victoria. We became the fifth owners. When we bought the car, it had 95,000 miles on the clock. It's got about 135 on it now, so we've used it a fair bit. It was a daily driver in Melbourne for about 18 months. We've taken it to a variety of different events. We've done Beta Birdwood over in South Australia, a whole bunch of stuff with the Mercedes Club in Victoria, and we've just used it because we like cruising around in it. It's a beautiful, comfortable old car to drive around in.
And this was an era when you could get a manual Mercedes. I'm guessing you can't really. I can't think of a manual Mercedes you get now. I'm not sure. There may be one. I'm happy to be corrected. But back then you could get manual, but I'm guessing most came, I'm cheating here. I'm looking over at the gear lever. I'm still going to call it an automatic. Is it auto?
Yeah, it's a four-speed column auto. These were available in a manual, and in fact in 1961, Bob Jane and Harry Firth won the 500-mile race at Phillip Island in a manual one of these, so a 220 SE, just the same as this.
So it has got some relevance to the museum that we're standing in front of.
Look, yeah, these things were used in competition. They were used as a rally car over in Europe and South America as well, and they were very successful. But in Australia, won the Armstrong 500 race at Phillip Island in 61. Barry Seaton ran one here at the East of Bathurst in 63, and a couple of other races as well. But yeah, very limited competition pedigree.
Now, back when I was first dating the other member of Team Wang over there, we owned a 70 or a 69 230 Mercedes, and that was a four-cylinder, so it was a bit gutless, and it had the four-speed automatic transmission, but it used to start in second gear, and I said to my wife at the time, I think we need to get the transmission service because it's starting in second and never going to first. But then I read up, and it's meant to start in second.
Correct, yeah. And in fact, this one's the same. They start in second gear because it's just a nicer way to step off and it's less jerky, but they do have a low first gear if you do need to get away in a hurry.
Do you need to manually pull it into first to get that first gear?
Yeah, look, this one you can actually manually drive it through the gears, and it's also got a kick down switch underneath the accelerator. So you can start in second and then actually push it all the way to the kick down, but if you actually pull it down to the number 2 position, it'll start in first gear.
Well, have you ever found the need to push the accelerator that hard? And these things have got a long accelerator travel, don't they?
Yeah, look, it's the sort of thing that I reckon if you're driving an old car and you're dicing it up with modern traffic, you've probably got the wrong car for the job. There are times where, you know, getting off in a hurry in traffic in first is necessary, but gee, probably, I reckon I've done it 6 times in 15 years that we've owned the car.
And we were just in there looking over the 67 Bathurst GT XR Falcon. What a beast it is. The main reason it won, of course, was the V8 that it had under the hood. And this thing doesn't have a V8. It's got a silky smooth 6. That thing's got discs at the front, drums at the back. Now, I'm going to wager another guess here. You've got discs all round on this thing.
No, this one's actually got discs on the front. The model up, so the 300 SE in the same body shell, they had four-wheel discs, air suspension, and a 3-litre all-aluminium motor, but this has only got the front-wheel discs.
I'm glad I didn't wager anything on that bet then.
Yeah, look, I've played with these things for a while, so yeah, I'm pretty in a safe ground there.
Yeah. Well, Brad, well, I've also got to say the condition of it. You mentioned before we come out and to do the interview, because I've sort of put you on the spot to get you out here, that you hadn't given it a wash in a while. But it's given it's a daily driver, it is in outstanding. Is that the original chrome work on it?
Yeah, it's had a little bit of work done on various bits. When we were in Tassie on our honeymoon, we actually got run into. So the front quarter's been straightened out, and the half of the front bumper bar is different. But the vast majority of the car is completely original. There's certainly been no work done on the interior.
Which side, Brad? Because I can't tell by looking at it.
Okay, so on the driver's side. On the driver's side.
So we're on the original side.
Yes.
So that's the original part of the bumper. The chrome work on this thing, geez, they knew how to. Those Germans knew how to chrome a car, didn't they?
Yeah. Look, you can see why this thing is twice as expensive as the equivalent Ford or Holden or Valiant of the same period. They are a really nicely put together and nicely finished car, and they're beautifully engineered, and that was one of the reasons that we loved it. You always hear when people say about old cars, oh, they drive like a new car, which is largely rubbish. They don't. They drive like an old car. But when we first drove this one, we stepped out of a car that was 5 years old that we'd bought new, and traded it in on this. And it's not like a modern car, but it certainly drives pretty well for a car of its era.
Yeah, this one over here, the Wang, that's 30 years old. It's got a badge on the back that my son bought for me. It says Shitbox Edition, and it drives like a shitbox. Yeah,
look, I'm not surprised. 80s, 90s Japanese stuff is sort of not exactly renowned for being fantastic. It'll probably go forever.
It looks a bit wedgy compared to this one, though. Are you interested in a trade?
Do you need me to think about that for a second?
Yeah, just build up scratch your head and think, gee, do I need to throw anything in to
Yeah, I didn't realise what I needed in my life was a Mazda 626, but there you go.
Well, neither did we. It's embarrassing. But this one wouldn't be embarrassing. This looks great. I love the red leather, and I know that was stock. Now, is that leather, or is that what Mercedes come up with a new term for that, leather? And I've forgotten what it was. Brad, help me out.
I'm going to help you out. It's MB-Tex. So it's very fancy vinyl. Yep. And in fact, I at the moment I also have a 300 SE project, and it's leather, and the leather falls apart. Whereas this MB-Tex, you can't kill it. It looks as good as it ever did. And the vast majority of people, when they see the car, they go, "Oh, when did you get the interior done up?" And it's like, well, no, it's been like that since 1964 because the material lasts so well.
Well, the SL I had a leather interior, had to be completely reupholstered, but the earlier 230 that had MB-Tex, and that thing was like new. You could scrub it and to clean it up, and it took all amounts of punishment. That looks like it's been recently restored. In the last 3 or 4 years, it's that good. And you're telling me that's the original MB-Tex?
That is the original MB-Tex from 1964.
My goodness me! Well, the Germans knew how to build a car. I love the coloured hubcaps on the old Merc. So that I'm not a hubcap fan, but boy, did they know how to make them look good, didn't they? It looks stunning. Now, this is post fintail, or
no? This is a fintail. Yep.
This is a fintail, because I hadn't looked at the back of it. So when did the fintails run from?
So 1959, and then the last of them came out in 67.
So okay, so not quite a 10-year run.
No, not quite. And really, it was running out. The S class that came after this, without the fins, sort of 1965 onwards, and they ran the kind of cheaper version of the fintail for 65 to 67.
Now the Finnies have got a real following. I remember when I was in the Mercedes-Benz club, very briefly, there was a whole section dedicated to Finny aficionados. I guess you were one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. They sort of, because of the whole fins thing went very out of style very quickly, they were seen as, it was a bit of a throwback and it was a bit Americanized and things like that. So they're sort of, I guess, the black sheep in the family for many respects, but people that love them realise that they are actually a fantastic car. And those of us that love our Finnies, we really are quite partial to them, and we're very loyal to them.
Well, good on you, Brad. Look, I think it's a real treat for me to be able to speak to an owner of a car such as this, to see it driving around. I mean, everything these days looks much of a muchness. So you've got to look at the badge to know whether they're driving a Japanese or a European car, to be honest with you. But this thing, It stands out, but it stands out for all the right reasons in my mind. Thank you for spending 5 minutes to discuss your car. I'm going to ask you if you can open the door so I can take a few photos. But Brad, you've been fantastic. The museum's been fantastic. Opening the doors to idiots like us, allowing us to take photos and interview yourself has been really appreciated. Well done, mate.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks very much for coming on and visiting.
Okay, good on you. And thank you. Bye-bye.